The GOAT against the best quarterback in the league. Tom Brady against Patrick Mahomes. Chris Lovitt and I look at the quarterback matchup ahead of the Super Bowl. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more NFL videos.
So yeah, that's the Super Bowl is going to be happening this Sunday, and it's going to be the matchup between probably the GOAT Tom Brady and probably the best player of the last 2 years in Patrick Mahomes, who could become the youngest quarterback to win two Super Bowls. And yeah, it's going to be their fifth matchup. Brady won the first two games, and Patrick Mahomes won the last two. So it's one matchup nobody's going to miss.
Yeah, and this could very well be like the most important Super Bowl in history. And the reason you think that is because it's very rare that two players, you've got the GOAT in Brady and potentially the future GOAT. And I know it's still very early in Mahomes' career, but I wouldn't say it's too early to be throwing terms around like that. The kind of trajectory that Mahomes is on, he has every chance to maybe catch Brady one day. And when you kind of look back at like previous games um, at key matchups, then it's often whoever comes out on top of those matchups, and you can kind of point back to that and say, well, but Mahomes beat Brady in a Super Bowl. And I guess the kind of closest thing, it's I guess like somewhat comparable, is when Joe Montana beat Dan Marino in, I think it was might be Super Bowl 19. Obviously, they were both a bit younger than this, but that's the kind of thing. And if it would have been close between those two, I know obviously Montana won 4 Super Bowls, Marino didn't win any, so it's kind of easy to say there. But you would have looked back at that Super Bowl and used that as to kind of gauge them against each other, and I think that's how this game is going to be viewed as well.
And when we look back at the first matchup, that was back in 2018. They met in week 6, and it was a very high scoring game that the Patriots in the end won 43-40. And what kind of stuck out there is that just the Patriots rush offense was just way better than the Chiefs. They rushed for nearly twice as many yards as the Chiefs did. And in the end, the Stephen Gostkowski field goal decided it, but you kind of see how important the run game was in that matchup. And also maybe back then still as well, the Chiefs weren't as efficient in the red zone. They were only 2 of 5. So that contributed to their first loss back in 2018.
Yeah, the previous games between them they've all been one score games, so there hasn't been any blowouts to speak of. And yeah, the Patriots lent on their run game in that game back in I think it was 2018. And then obviously the second game, the AFC title game, where Brady threw for more yards than Mahomes, and you probably would not argue that he outplayed him, but it was fairly close. And the Chiefs are very unlucky, not to win that game. Was it not for D Ford lined up in the neutral zone, then the Chiefs probably go to the Super Bowl in 2019 and probably beat the Rams. So yeah, really close games between them. 4 one-score games, and you would probably expect the Super Bowl to be a one-score game as well. I can't really see either one, running away with that either.
Yeah, the infamous AFC Championship game in 2018. It's basically like the D Ford game because yeah, we've like you said, without him being offside on that interception, the Chiefs probably would have gone to another Super Bowl back then already. But yeah, it's just like you said, all the matchups have been tight. The only one that kind of was lopsided and I think not as representative was last year in Week 14, where the Chiefs beat the Patriots 23-16, because that was kind of that year. Obviously, Brady had no weapons whatsoever. His only good receiver really was Julian Edelman, and on the other hand, Mahomes and the Chiefs were on their way up. And yeah, so that wasn't that representative, and you could definitely not take anything out of that game and towards the Super Bowl, because now Tom Brady has all the weapons he could have ever asked for with Antonio Brown and Daniel and Mike Evans and Gronk and just endless weapons. So that's not really representative. But obviously Mahomes has still all the same guys. There was also obviously the fourth matchup just this past, like in week 12 before the Buccaneers bye week. And that one was just Mahomes was out to such a fast start. He was just on fire early on, especially Tyreek Hill as well.
Yeah, the scoreboard for that game reads, only a 3-point win for the Chiefs, but yeah, that game wasn't really close. I know the Buccaneers brought it back towards the end, but I think that game was the Chiefs flexing their muscles a bit, just because it was in week 12 and the Chiefs hadn't really been, putting it on teams like some people thought that they would be, and like we've become so accustomed to seeing them do and putting up so many points. I think that the start of that game was just a little, flex and just a small reminder to the league, how good the Chiefs actually are. And we've seen that in spurts this year. And when the Chiefs really do have it clicking, like we saw in the first quarter, when Tyreek Hill absolutely torched them for 200 yards in the first quarter, then that just really reminds teams how good they are. And yeah, that I think is the matchup previously, obviously, that has the most significance on the Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah, and you could kind of see, I mean, since that loss, the Bucks actually have won 7 straight games. So that kind of maybe fueled a fire under Brady even more when he lost to Mahomes again. And you could maybe see them, like him, especially just having that fire again, or even like to be more determined than ever to beat Mahomes. Maybe now in the Super Bowl, that's going to give him maybe an edge. But just overall, if you look at all the 4 games, you can kind of see that it's obviously hugely important to start quickly because the Buccaneers cannot afford to fall behind that early and that by that much like they did in week 12. And also I think the running game is going to be hugely important now that Leonard Fournette has such a big role all of a sudden in the Bucs offense. It's going to be important or good for Brady to be able to lean on that to kind of balance out the offense.
Yeah, for sure. And he's probably going to be without Antonio Brown. I mean, I'm not sure if he's been cleared, but I know he's definitely doubtful. I know he's still got some great weapons to throw the ball to. But yeah, leaning on the running game is always nice. And if you look kind of historically at playoffs and especially Super Bowls, they're usually not the most high scoring affairs. So you would expect points to be at a bit of a premium. And yeah, leaning on the run game is always nice. I mean, we always talk about the best way to slow down the Chiefs and slow down Mahomes is to keep them over on the sideline. And yeah, Tampa's really they've done 2 things really well, which I think have propelled them to the Super Bowl. They've been able to run the ball well recently, and they've been able to stop the run all year. Like they've been by far and away the best team at stopping the run all year. Whether that will have as much significance, because we know how the Chiefs like to operate a lot of passes, a lot of deep passes especially, kind of remains to be seen. But yeah, 2 really strong teams, and I think this is going to be a fantastic Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be I could see it be a very high scoring game. So if just both quarterbacks just come out hot and coming out throwing, just like just to prove that they're better than the other guy, and that's could be a matchup for the ages almost. Like who knows if we ever have like Brady against Mahomes again in a playoff game.